Nightmare, literally, for the more than 500 firefighters who would be called to battle a 10-alarm blaze that will go down as one of the worst in New England history from the standpoint of property damage. Flames rapidly engulfed the Dyer building and then began leaping to other close-by structures. It was a firestorm not unlike those which swept portions of London and Berlin during World War II. The intensity of the fire created strong wind drafts which whipped tongues of flame from rooftop to rooftop and blew sheets of water back into the faces of firemen. One after another, old brick walls began to crack and buckle. Then, with a snap, they would crash to the street as men scrambled to safety. Equipment had to be hosed down to keep it from becoming part of the growing casualty toll. One fireman suffered a broken leg, several others arm and leg lacerations. Some of these buildings had been recently converted to housing for the elderly. Police and firefighters miraculously managed to evacuate more than 700, some of them in wheelchairs. Emergency shelters were set up by the Salvation Army in the city of Lynn to house the homeless overnight. And so it continued until morning, when first light brought home the full extent of the devastation. 3 6-story and 3 8-story buildings had collapsed inward upon themselves. Lynn Fire Chief Joseph Scanlon called it the worst he had seen in 35 years. And a chief from Watertown said it was not like Chelsea in terms of total area, but probably worse in intensity because of the high-rise nature of the buildings. The army of firefighters came from as far away as Brockton to the south and the Merrimack Valley and New Hampshire to the north. Police had to cordon off large crowds which began to gather by dawn. The Lynnway was closed down as well as any street in the immediate area. This had been a source of Lynn's rejuvenated pride in itself, the heart of a $100 million redevelopment project. The Vamp building had recently been renovated to provide 250 apartments. People hoped to move in next month. Firefighters desperately tried to set up a wall of water to save this structure, but by mid-morning, that battle had been lost. First a spark, then wisps of smoke, then flames shooting from all of the upper floors. The head of Lynn's renewal program called it like losing a member of the family. Lynn fire officials did a magnificent job of coordinating the city's largest firefighting effort and had to deal with a shortage of water. At one point, hoses were strung to nearby Lynn Harbor to help the situation.
We're in trouble on water supplies. That's no reflection on you. We had so goddamn much going. You know.
We've got, and our reservoir's dropping, so we know that, but we're handling it right now.
We must have 50 communities here pumping water this time. Since I talked to you last, we left an 8-story building up there. I know.
Lynn has had its problems with arson fires, and although that is not being listed as the official cause of today's blaze, it is being investigated. Part of the reason for the intense nature of the fire was the storage of various chemicals in these factories and warehouses. Lynn Mayor Anthony Marino prowled the devastated streets through the early morning and afternoon. He said it was like watching his heart cut out.
It's a tremendous loss to us. It isn't a question of money, it's a question of the years that were spent in rehabbing and designing and putting in grants from the various agencies of government.
This was the axis for Lynn's redevelopment, its big comeback.
Yes, this was a big comeback for us in the downtown area. Hey, we'll survive anything, you know, we're tough enough to do it, but it's a setback for us.
Firefighters' efforts to control the blaze are being further complicated by leaking gas. Boston Gas has several crews at the fire scene trying to turn off the gas mains to those burning buildings. They've been able to get to at least 20 of the buildings, but they've been unable to get into 4 or 5 buildings because of the intense flames. So a good portion of the fire is being fueled by escaping gas. Boston Gas officials say there is nothing they can do but wait until it's safe to go inside those buildings.